Welcome back, everyone. We're here for another How to Do It session, and we're going to talk about something that's become something of a global phenomenon in the last 5 to 6 years, and this is the concept of foliar fertilising. It was once the preserves of intensive horticulture. A few greenhouse guys did it, and increasingly they discovered it was of value in crops like vegetables and so forth, but now it's everyone who's utilising foliar fertilising. We've got pasture growers all over the world getting tremendous results with foliar fertilising. We've got broadacre farmers who have converted their fungicide rigs to foliar rigs, and again getting wonderful results. And let's talk about why you might choose to foliar spray rather than putting it through the soil. Number one, and most important of all, is the fact that foliar fertilising is 12 times more efficient compared to soil-based applications. So obviously you're going to get a bigger bang for your dollar, and that's particularly relevant when we talk about things like trace minerals, which are quite expensive inputs, and we can get such a better response when we put it through the leaf. It's like a direct injection. It's like taking transdermal magnesium, which is 10 to 12 times more efficient than taking it through your mouth, because it just goes straight from the skin into your blood. So it doesn't have to go through the roots and be processed and so forth. It's just a direct entry via the stomates on the underside of the leaf. And that's really important when we talk about some of the principles of foliar fertilising, is that we do need to have a fine mist. And what we're going to demonstrate here today is the use of one of my favourite tools for small scale growers, and certainly for home gardeners and small market gardeners, and that's the use of a still backpack mister, because it creates and it blows 10 metres if you choose, if you have it powerful enough, so you can blow to the top of your fruit trees. But you can walk as fast as you can walk, and it's blasting and it's twisting that leaf over, and it's covering and coating that underside of the leaf with that very fine particle, understanding that the stomate, the entry point, is a very, very small size, and we're trying to get a particle small enough to enter freely into that stomate, which of course is directly into the workings of the plant. So fine droplet on the underside of the leaf, and the backpack's perfect for that. We're going to talk about a few other concepts when we talk about foliar fertilising. There are some minerals that are particularly relevant when we talk about that direct injection, and the most important of those is calcium. Calcium is the sluggish mineral, the most sluggish, the most immobile of all minerals. Many tissue tests that we do across the globe are deficient in calcium, particularly when we want the luxury levels of that very important mineral that governs the uptake of so many other minerals. It is a hugely important mineral and so often deficient. High magnesium shuts down calcium, high potassium shuts it down, overuse of nitrogen shuts down calcium, a lack of fungi in the soil limits calcium delivery to the plant. So foliar spray calcium. I've got to drive home that message. Almost every crop will benefit from a foliar spray of calcium. So that's one thing that you're just going to do. It might just be a wheat crop, but just to use some calcium nitrate, 2 kilos of calcium nitrate, a little bit of fulvic acid to chelate it, maybe 200-300 grams of fulvic acid powder to create a calcium fulvate, and watch what that simple low-cost investment can do for you, bringing that much-needed calcium into the equation via the foliar route. So let's talk about a few other concepts of foliar. Probably the biggest one from a cost-saving perspective, and from a crop quality perspective, and from an environmental perspective, is the foliar spraying of urea. I've talked about it many times on the podcast, how of course it's not applicable if you're organic, unless you live in Cuba, where it's certified organic to foliar spray no more than 10 kilos a week of urea. But urea is a natural compound. We just didn't harvest it naturally, and there's some tremendous benefits in the foliar spraying of urea. Now I'll quickly try and explain the pathway just as briefly as I can. Put urea in the soil, the urease enzyme kicks in almost immediately and converts it to the ammonium form of nitrogen. It sits with its one charge lightly on the clay colloid. If there's warmth and moisture, a bunch of organisms called nitrifying bacteria come woofing in and very quickly convert ammonium nitrogen to nitrate nitrogen, which is uptaken always with water. And when you've got 46% nitrogen, that's a lot of nitrogen and a lot of water. And so many people have noted an increase in insect pressure following a decent urea application, and that's relative to flooding the plant with nitrate and the water that takes it in, diluting the nutrient density and creating a calling card for insects, which is effectively what happens. So what's the deal with foliar urea? It's quite simple. It begins life in the amine form, very rapidly converted to ammonium and then nitrates, but once it becomes the nitrate form, it's a hugely energetic process to convert that nitrate via the nitrate reductase enzyme to the first stage of protein. And then it's very simple to click through to an amino acid and a protein. What is that first stage of protein? It's called an amine. That's what urea begins life as. What would happen if you bypassed that super inefficient, off-gassing, leaching nitrogen? Agriculture being responsible for 80% of all the nitrous oxide in the atmosphere. We've got to do it better than what we're doing it. And urea foliar spraying is one key strategy to reduce that problem. You're taking the amine 10, 12 times more efficiently straight into the leaf, click amino acid, click protein, no energy sucking process in that initial conversion of a nitrate through to an amine. It is the most efficient way you will ever use nitrogen, and you do it with foliar fertilising of urea. Always combining a little bit of humic acid with the urea to create a urea humate that buffers the potential burning, particularly in low water rate scenarios where broadacre farmers might be using as little as 80 litres per hectare with as much as 15 kilos of urea in that 80 litres. Well, we need some humic acid to buffer that. So that's one of the ways that we can benefit from foliar fertilising, pulling back our nitrogen bill and making nitrogen so much more efficient and so much more beneficial from the perspective of rapid conversion to protein within the plant. So other things that we talk about in terms of strategies when we foliar fertilise, we always want to put, as I've talked earlier, the microbes behind the minerals. And this is where the do-it-yourself BAM can be so valuable, because you will never foliar fertilise without putting a little bit of BAM into the equation. So in this case, 1 to 100 works really nicely for a foliar. We're standing in front of a ginger crop that's in its last month, but looking a bit hungry. You can see it's a little yellowish. So we're going to foliar fertilise. And there's still some benefits at this late stage to green up that plant and get perhaps a little more of, you already saw the good roots that we've got there, but we can size those roots up a little more efficiently if we provide a broad spectrum foliar that covers all bases. But we're going to put behind those minerals, we're going to put the microbes in the form of BAM, beneficial anaerobic microbes, into that blend. Now, what we're going to use on this ginger crop is our largest selling fertiliser globally. It's called Triple 10. It took me 2 years to formulate this particular product. It's 61 ingredients. They've got to go in a specific order or they fall out of solution, so no one's been able to copy it to this point. It is tremendous, sold into many, many countries. It is one of the best fertilisers you will ever use, and it covers all bases except for calcium, because there's a phosphorus component. Calcium and phosphorus tie up, and so we have a secondary product called Trio, which is calcium, magnesium. Magnesium also ties up with phosphate, so we need it separately. We can't combine them. So an all-inclusive foliar spray is very simple. Triple 10 1 week, Trio the next. You've covered every base. You've covered even things like selenium, cobalt, molybdenum are all included in that Triple 10 formula. A whole range of plant growth stimulants and biostimulants. It is really, truly remarkable. So we're going to use 100 mils, 1 to 100, and that's about a third of a glass here. A bit rough, but it works. That's our 100 mils of Triple 10, maybe a little more. So the Triple 10 goes in. Now, we can't include Trio because they're not compatible. We would use that separately if we were going to, but what we can, Triple 10 covers all the trace minerals, but we want a little boost. So we're going to just put a cap full of another product called Shuttle 7, which is a tremendous, all 7 trace minerals, including cobalt and molybdenum at good rates. So we're going to give that trace minerals that are already in Triple 10 a further boost with a cap full of Shuttle 7. We've put our microbes, we've put our Triple 10, we've further boosted the trace minerals. And now one of the things that is one of the strategies when you're foliar fertilising is the use of a wetter sticker. Now, and perhaps even a penetrant. Really, really effective. If you've just gone to the effort of foliar spray and we're in a cloudy day, looks like we're about to rain here, we're about to foliar spray, so we want to make sure that it's rain fast. And what we're going to use for that is another very good selling product from Nutritech called Cloak Spray Oil. And this spray oil is not just creates this rain fastness and increases target penetration and so forth, but it is a really, really good penetrant. It's got an omega-3 fish oil component that just penetrates and will take things into the plant really efficiently, while also sort of cutting back odours and things like that if you've got an issue with that. So we'll put our cap full of Cloak Spray Oil, cap's in the way then, into the mix. We might need to flush this through with a thing shortly. That's our cloak. And finally, this is not essential, but it's, you know, a good thing to consider, and there's tiny amounts involved. This is a product called Tsunami. This is a spreader. This will spread, reduce surface tension, but it's a silica based. It's a natural, organically certified silica-based spreader that will contribute some silica to the cores, and it's used in tiny rates. So we're doing the tiniest little drop in here, about that, of the Tsunami. And that will give us that spread across the entire surface while delivering organic silica. So we've got all of our ingredients together there. What else do we need to talk about? When we're foliar fertilising, let's talk about timing. When's the optimum time? Well, this is kind of the optimum time. Late in the afternoon is perfect for foliar fertilising. The main uptake time is first thing in the morning. There's research now showing that the frequency of bird song, the early morning bird chorus, opens the stomate up. Stomates can open up to 7 times their standard size, and they're fully open in the morning to get some dew, to get some dust on the dew, to get some minerals and some moisture, to have a drink and a feed first thing in the morning. And so coordinating with that timing, putting it on, say, late in the afternoon so it's still present in the morning, or foliar spraying first thing in the morning, are the 2 key times during the day. Now, there are other few considerations. One of them is moon phases, and there is some quite compelling research suggesting that the best foliar response is any of the 6 days leading up to a full moon, and the worst foliar response, the least movement of moisture, and you're trying to move moisture around the plant obviously, or nutrients around the plant, is the 6 days leading up to a new moon. So you avoid those days. Mark your calendar if you're going to do a monthly spray. Any of the 6 days leading up to a full moon has been shown to be most effective. And I've seen it, we've tried it, and it is quite profound, the difference. So why not mark your calendar any of those days, and that's when you foliar fertilise. I haven't even checked the moon phase for today, but we're just going to demonstrate the use of a still backpack sprayer with the mixture we've just made up. And Karl's very kindly going to get down into that ginger patch, and we're going to have a look at foliar spraying with a still backpack mister. Now, one other little thing that I haven't considered and perhaps should have mentioned was the idea of doing it yourself. You don't need to necessarily use our fertilisers. If you've got some fulvic acid, some soluble fulvic acid powder, it's very simple with trace minerals to take some zinc sulfate, to take some calcium nitrate, to take some manganese sulfate or whatever, add some fulvic acid, usually 300 grams per hectare, and you've chelated and created, remember the word chelate means claw in Greek, and you've wrapped that claw around that positively charged cation and basically reduced its rush to a negatively charged leaf surface, so you don't have the traffic jam, which is the issue with just spraying zinc sulfate. The zinc rushes to that tiny pore, positive rushing to negative, highly negatively charged leaf surface, and you create a traffic jam at that tiny little pore called the stomate. And a chelating agent, the claw wraps around, neutralizes that charge, and you go much more efficiently. That's why you pay more money for chelated trace minerals, but you can make them yourself. Calcium nitrate, for example, with fulvic acid as a calcium fulvate. Manganese sulfate with fulvic acid, manganese fulvate. That is very, very efficient. So that's the other thing you can do with foliars, is keep the costs down by making your own fertilisers in the forms of do-it-yourself chelation. Okay, I think that's covered most things we need to. Now let's go down and have a look at Karl at work, and we're going to spray that ginger crop and see if we can green it up over the coming days, and perhaps we can come back and show you the results. Thank you.